Let's crash these two more terms that you need to know while you're working through your cold process recipes: soda ash and glycerin rivers. Now these can be a nagging problem, and in this video I've got some troubleshooting solutions for these two situations. And stay tuned to the end of this video where I'll give you my recipe for when you want to make a fully beautiful white bar of soap by combining just the right combinations of oils, but without going overboard with the white coloring. This is the third part of a 10-part lesson on cold process for beginners. In this list you'll find 9 cold process full recipes. Now these recipes can be downloaded inside the members section of the thermalmermaid.com website, and all of the lesson 2 is also posted over in our Facebook group, Thermal Mermaid Soap and Bath Making, and this is open for everybody to join. And don't forget, if you want to get all the recipes in this tutorial series, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so that you can get every recipe in the beginner cold process series. Let's start with soda ash. Soda ash is an effect on the surface of your soap when some of the lye hasn't been saponified and it reacts with the carbon dioxide in the air. That can happen as soon as the soap sets up, or it can take several weeks while the bar is curing. Now this can be tricky because there are some different reasons as to why your soaps can ash. The most obvious reason is that your lye wasn't mixed well enough, or maybe you have just a bit too much lye in your recipe. And these are easy remedies that can be fixed by mixing or measuring just a little more carefully. Another reason could be the humidity in the room during the curing process. If you followed your recipe correctly, and you seem to have a chronic problem with soda ash, then try putting a dehumidifier into the room, or try curing in a place that's more dry. If you're still having a problem that you can't identify, then you can take some preventative measures that may help. Now first, before you set your soap aside to cure, spray the top with 99% isopropyl rubbing alcohol. Also, you can place a flat piece of cardboard over the top of the mold as it's setting up, and this will minimize the contact with the air as your batter's becoming harder. Now you can do this too by placing the bars just a ½ an inch away from each other, and then place the curing board on top of them. Don't let the bars touch each other. You want them to just be able to breathe and allow the water to evaporate. Now if this is still a problem, try working with a little bit less water in your recipe. Reduce the water in the recipe only by 10%. This is best if your oils are soft. It might not be possible if you're working with very hard oils. So if you do have soda ash, then how do you get rid of it? Well, first, soda ash does not affect the quality of your soap. So is it really bothering you enough to do anything about it? It really is only cosmetic. If the answer is yes, then put on a pair of gloves and wash the bars right off. Rub the surface down until the ash disappears. Now if this just isn't an option because of your design, or if you have a layer of glitter, then you can use a handheld steamer and then steam the ash off. A handheld clothing steamer works in this case. So hot steam is just about the best way known to burn that ash right off. Now glycerin rivers may or may not be a problem depending on whether or not you like to look at them. These are sometimes called crackle. They're a visual effect in the colored sections of a bar of soap that look like a crackle or a fractured color change. They do not affect the quality of your soap. These are distinctive striations in your bar of soap that look like little rivers. Now we could get into a whole science as to why this happens, but mostly soapers just want to know how to control it. Typically this happens with certain color pigments like ultramarine blue or titanium dioxide. And it happens when soap is going through the gel phase and becoming hotter. During the chemical reaction that's happening, water will pool together in some places in the bar in different densities. And since glycerin is a byproduct of soap, it's also being formed, and in different densities, this crackle look is created. Now the shortcut remedies for this are to give your recipe a water discount. You could try using 10% less water. You could make sure that the colorants are mixed extra well. Or you could pour the batter at a slightly thinner trace. You may need to practice this a few times before you get the hang of controlling the glycerin rivers, but with a little practice, you can make any recipe work. Now we'll get on with the good part of this tutorial. One of the most common things that new soap makers do is get a little heavy on the titanium dioxide when they're trying to make a bright white bar of soap. And after a few recipes, you might start to feel like no matter what you do, your soap is going to come out yellow, and coloring your recipe with white titanium dioxide will only give you an off-white cream-colored bar. Unfortunately, with more titanium dioxide, the bar becomes a little more brittle, and it will be more likely to show a crackle effect. So how do soapers get that even white bar of soap? This is done with a proper combination of titanium dioxide in just the right amount, not too much, and oils that have a light or white base to them. This means little or almost no olive oil, or any oils with dark browns or heavy greens in them. Let's take a look at this combination. The following recipe will give us a nice, bright white bar of soap. Let's make 1 pound of soap, which will yield 4 bars at about 4 ounces apiece. First, I'll make my lye water solution by carefully pouring 2.26 ounces of lye crystals into 6.08 ounces of cold distilled water. Dissolve this into a solution and set it aside to cool to room temperature. For my oils, I'll combine 4.8 ounces of palm shortening, 4.8 ounces of lard, 3.2 ounces of coconut oil, 2.4 ounces of sunflower oil, and 0.8 ounces of castor oil. Once these have both cooled so that they're about 10 to 15 degrees from each other, we'll combine the oils with the lye water solution and carefully emulsify them together. Now I'm only going to use 1/2 teaspoon of titanium dioxide and no more than that. Typically, in my recipes, I don't go over 1 teaspoon of titanium dioxide for a 3-pound recipe, so 1/2 teaspoon is a lot of white pigment. But as long as it's blended in completely, it should be fine. For this recipe, 1/2 ounce of fragrance oil should be plenty. You want to choose a fragrance oil that is known for not discoloring the soap batter and get it as clear and light as you possibly can. So in this case, crystal blue waters will work nicely for a white bar of soap. Let's take a look at what these bars look like after they've had time to set up and cured after 3 days. Here we have bright white bars, and as the weeks pass, they'll get even lighter, which is common in cold process. So you can see that if you want your bars to be white, going overboard with white colorant isn't exactly necessary, but a little colorant combined with choosing just the right oils. Now in the next video in the Beginner Cold Process series, we still have 2 more recipes that are likely to bring a heavy, thick trace to your project. So we're going to work with designs with layering clay and salt. Make sure you subscribe, part 4 is coming up.